let's talk about something the Chinese Communist Party really doesn't want you thinking too hard about: the economy. Because while their propaganda machine loves to talk about growth, strength, resilience, the truth is much different actually for China. China's economy isn't just struggling, it's unraveling. And the ghost cities, they're just the most visible symptom of a much deeper disease. You've probably seen the drone footage, endless rows of these high rise apartment buildings, empty streets, shopping malls with no shoppers, whole cities built with almost no one living in them. It's not an exaggeration. According to, Bosch Song, researcher with the Development Research Center of the State Council, at least 65 million homes in China sit completely empty. 65 million homes. That's enough to house the entire population of France. Okay? These aren't just abandoned projects. Many of them were never meant to be lived in. They were built to hit GDP targets. You see, in China's growth-obsessed economy, local officials were, of course, rewarded for increasing their region's GDP. So what did they do? They partnered with a massive property developer and said, build, 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 even if no one would ever move in. See, that's the problem with when you have a communist party. Okay? It brings us to Evergrande, the poster child of China's real estate disaster. Evergrande was once the largest property developer in China. At its peak, it had more than 1,300 real estate projects in over 280 cities. Think about that. 280 cities with 1,300 real estate projects. It had over $300 billion in liability. Yes, with a B, billion, 300 billion in liabilities. And it defaulted. Why? Because it couldn't pay back its debts. Not even close. It owed money to banks, suppliers, foreign investors, and most devastatingly, of course, home buyers. You see, in China, it's common to buy a home before it's built. People put their life savings down on a promise. And thanks to this collapse, hundreds of thousands of them are left with no home, no refund, and no way forward. That's not just an economic crisis. That's a human crisis. And it's not just Evergrande, it's Country Garden, once seen as a safe developer. I lived in a country garden property in China, okay? Personally. It also collapsed into default. In total, over 50 major real estate developers in China have defaulted. And that's only in the last 5 years here. And the property sector, it makes up about 25 to 30% of China's GDP. Okay? Think about that. The property sector of China makes up 25 to 30% of China's GDP. Okay? You pull that one little thread, and the whole sweater comes apart. Okay? Think about those numbers. The Chinese government reported 5.2% GDP growth in 2023. But ask any honest economist, ask an honest economist, and they'll tell you, it's not real, it's fiction, it's fake. It's the number the government needs to hit, not the one that reflects reality. In fact, according to independent research, China's GDP really is probably closer to 2 to 3% max. That's with generous estimates, okay? But why is there such a discrepancy here? Because China manipulates its data at every level. Local officials inflate their numbers to please higher-ups. Beijing, of course, massages the national stats for optics. And then the world just repeats them. Imagine that. They just repeat them. Okay? The World Bank still quote Chinese figures, even though they're produced under the control of the same regime that censors COVID, data, journalists, and rewrites history. We know that they lie. And people still take it as fact. Let's not pretend that this is just bad data, This is a real strategic deception here. They're lying to you on purpose, okay? This is about maintaining the illusion of strength while the walls are breaking apart and cracking underneath, okay? And that's China in a nutshell. But here's where it gets even more dangerous. Real estate in China isn't just about buildings, okay? It's about savings. For decades, the safest and most common investment for Chinese families was buying property. Over 70% of household wealth is tied up in real estate. Not stocks, not businesses, not savings accounts. Real estate. So when developers go bust, when buildings stop construction, when property prices fall, what happens? People lose everything. And that's exactly what's happening. Since the collapse of major developers, property values in many cities have plunged. In some areas, homes that once sold for, 2 million yuan are now going for 1.2 or less. A 40% drop in value. But what's worse is that no one's buying them even then. China's younger generation is avoiding home ownership. Why? Because they don't believe in the system anymore. And why should they? Let's be honest, why would they? Youth unemployment in China hit a record 21.3% before the government simply stopped reporting it. Before they stopped reporting it. They just stopped putting data out about something like this. That's how bad it got. And when you have no job and no confidence in the future, you don't buy homes. You don't start families. You disengage. And that's exactly what's happening. China's facing a demographic collapse. In 2023, China's population declined for the second year in a row. The first time that's happened since the Great Famine. Birth rates are at record lows. This isn't some passing trend. This is the long-term consequence of a society that lost faith in its future. So what does the CCP do? Do they admit fault? Of course not. They double down. They tell people to have more babies. They pressure banks to hand out more loans. They give speeches about economic stability, while quietly instructing the state media to downplay the crisis. They blame the United States. They blame foreign influence. They blame everyone except the system that they built. Let's not forget, China's economy grew fast, but it didn't grow smart. It grew on the back of state control, fake numbers, ghost construction, and massive debt. That kind of growth always hits a wall. And now, China's slamming into it head first. So the next time someone tells you how strong the Chinese economy is, ask them about Evergrande. Ask them about the 65 million empty apartments. Ask them about disappearing GDP numbers. Okay? Ask them about censored unemployment data. Ask them about the middle-class families living in half-built apartments with no recourse. Ask them what kind of economic miracle leaves people out of broke, hopeless, homeless, and censored. Okay? Who does that? The truth is, the CCP does that. Okay? The CCP built an empire of smoke and mirrors. And now the mirrors are cracking. And everything has become clear. This isn't a story of an accident or mismanagement. It's a story of control, deception, and collapse. And you know what, folks? We're just getting started. Not with just the 30 for 30, but the collapse of China. Like, comment, subscribe, and have a good day.